stress out of my way. Get it like a schoolboy, got the tools, boy. Never pay the unemployed. Coming with velocity, with the needles in the red. Think I lost my sanity. Straight to hell, that's where I sent them. Straight to hell, that's where I sent them. Straight to hell, that's where I sent them. Straight to hell. Here I come again, bring another jam with the mic in my hand. Yeah, you know it's slam. Moving forward with momentum. Straight to hell, that's where we sent them. Sometimes freaky, sometimes we get nice. If it feels good, sometimes we do it twice, or 3 times, or 4 times, or 5, or 6. Rewind the tape, get me back in the mix. We like to thank our friends for a hell of a time. We hope it never ends. Track a little smile when it's time to get high. So, yeah! Straight to hell, that's where I sent them. Straight to hell, that's where I sent them. Straight to hell, that's where I sent them. Straight to hell. Straight to hell, that's where I sent them. Straight to hell, that's where I sent them. Straight to hell, that's where I sent them. Straight to hell. Yeah. Allow me to illustrate and paint the perfect picture of the perfect perpetrator. Make me look down on the upstroke, cause I got no love for the evil imitator. I live to hear the people yelling and screaming and clapping and toe tapping. Ain't gonna be no gum flapping. To shun, yeah, to just turn away. Straight to hell, that's where I sent them. Straight to hell, that's where I sent them. Straight to hell, that's where I sent them. Straight to hell! Straight to hell, that's where I sent them. Straight to hell, that's where I sent them. Straight to hell, that's where I sent them. Straight to hell! Straight to hell, that's where I sent them. Straight to hell, that's where I sent them. Straight to hell, that's where I sent them. Straight to hell!
Midwest Music Explosion is on TalkSTL.com, MidwestMusicExplosion.com, Facebook.com/MidwestMusicExplosion. This show is intended not only for the fans, but the musicians as well. An open forum to discuss the life that is the Midwest music scene.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Midwest Music Explosion on TalkSTL.com. Definitely want to thank everybody that tuned in last week and made the first show a success with Adam and Ryan from Greek Fire and Story of the Year, and they got a cool project coming up with the whole Who Killed or Saved the Music Industry, which I'm pretty stoked about. Joining me in the studio today is Mr. Chris Frank, widely known around here as Hoss, our good friend from Q Prime Management, the Midwest radio promotion specialist, I guess you could say.
That's me. Sure.
So, thanks for coming in, man. I know you just got back in town and you travel a lot with all. We'll get into all kind of what your job entails, you know, because I want people to know what actual radio promotion person is, because there's some bands that probably still don't even know what that is, and that's pretty sad if you don't.
There's probably some bands that I work with that still don't know what I do.
Like, who is this guy?
Why is he always here?
Who is this monster of a man?
Do we hire new security?
I could totally see that happening. That's funny as hell. So, yeah, here we are. Wednesday night again. Joe Pro in the studio with us. Midwest Music Explosion. We got a bunch of cool music coming up from some local bands that have sent some stuff in. Logos, Sonic Reducer. We got some old stuff that you haven't heard in a while. Some bands and friends of mine that I have in Minneapolis, a guy named Stephen Huntley. Okay. And we're actually mixing it up. It's not just rock and roll, so we're doing country, whatever's
I like that.
Whatever's available in music.
Music
why
is
not?
good.
Yeah.
Period.
I'm actually going to play some Shannon Nicole tonight. How about that?
Nice.
Yeah,
I was actually Facebooking with her a couple weeks ago.
How's she doing? I haven't talked to her in a while.
She's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's one of those people that I met through you,
Right.
and became a fan of, and
She's
the industry,
super talented, man.
Yep.
Super talented. She can sing.
Yep.
I mean, there's just no question. We listened to what was it, Cabo? They did "Come Undone," and the Point used to play it.
So good.
And Tom and Jeff always want to play it, and just listening to her do those background vocals on that, and it's just like, wow.
I used to have a copy of that, and I can't find it anymore.
Oh, I'll give you one. I got one here.
Awesome, because every
We'll
once in a while, I'm
pirate
like,
it. We'll
God,
get
I wanna
into
hear
that
this
later
one.
in the show too.
Oh, piracy!
I got some stats here that we were researching before you got here.
Sure.
And I want to read this to you and see if you can fathom the amount of economic loss from piracy and all that stuff. It's crazy.
I had a conversation the other day with friends of mine who aren't in the industry but are just music fans and whatever. And we were talking about different records. And I had made the comment that I worked at a record store back in 97. Yeah, it was just a mall. It wasn't a cool record store. It was just a mall record store.
Right.
Where CDs on sale were $16.99.
Whew.
But I remember literally selling between 70 to 100 pieces a day each of
Physical product.
physical CDs of the Backstreet Boys, Black and Blue, NSYNC's No Strings Attached, and Limp Bizkit's Significant Other.
Wow.
Like, that's a day out of one store.
Is that like 70 a piece for each band?
Yeah.
Or, okay,
Like
not
between,
total 100.
No. Between 70 to 100 per artist per day, which means that, let's just use Limp Bizkit for this argument.
Okay.
That as a rock band, my store was selling between conservatively 600 to 1,000 pieces a week.
Wow.
There was a band when I was at Universal that we took number one at the alternative chart for a month. Number one song in
What
the
year
entire
would this be?
country.
You were talking
This
within
would have
the
been
last 2-3 years?
This would have been 2010. It was Crash Kings.
Okay.
We took Mountain Man number one at alternative for a month. At the peak of us going number one nationwide, we were selling 1,100 CDs
Wow.
in the country.
And I wish I had the stat in front of me of what Cabo did when we took Champagne to number one. It was
ridiculous.
It was a significant number, but I mean, you're still only talking a couple, but 120, 140,000 CDs as opposed to 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
You
If
do
that
that in
song
a
would have
week.
done that.
You do it in a week.
Yeah. It'd be a platinum record, no problem.
Easy. Yep.
Any number one single would have done that
Easily.
That is just crazy. If
It's
you
insane.
Think about that.
It's seriously insane.
You said basically you were talking about like rock and roll bands. Now, do you find even being with, because I know you're the Midwest rep for Q Prime, do you find that rock is easier to do in the Midwest because it just kind of feels like it lives here in the center of where we're at?
Yes and no. It depends, because rock and roll now is such a broad spectrum of music.
It's changing. There it is.
If we're going to go horns up rock, yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, like if you went like All American Nightmare by Hinder.
That's going to come out of here.
It's going to come out of the Midwest.
It always has.
And it doesn't really. It does stuff on the East and West Coast.
Like it'll translate to the East and West, but it definitely, I mean, the Midwest is the meats and potato, and you bring up a band like Hinder, there's a reason why I'm so close with those guys.
Right.
Because they
You're
lived
probably
in my
always with them.
Yeah, like they lived in my, I mean, number one, they're from Oklahoma, but they lived in my world for pretty much 3 years.
Right.
And like I busted my ass with that band to help them and get them to where they were. And it's just, dude, you have but look at that band. Let's just talk that band.
Okay.
The first record,
Lips of an Angel.
well, that was the first. That
single.
was the single. But the first album, we had a song called "Get Stoned," which was the lead single.
Right.
That went number 2 at Active Rock, and it did, I think, top 20 at Alternative, and we sold roughly, let's say, 100,000 pieces of physical product
Off Get Stoned.
off of Get Stoned.
Okay.
And then we take Lips of an Angel to rock. And it does fine. It goes number 2 again.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason it doesn't go number 1 is because we released a Godsmack record to radio that debuted at number 1. That song goes to top 40.
And it was all in the same building, too. So
Yeah.
that was a good week
Right,
around
it was
Universal,
smart.
right?
So Lips of an Angel goes to top 40.
Right.
Goes number 1 at top 40, which
Right.
is huge.
Oh,
massive.
I heard a country version of it, and I went, this song
Yep.
is just ridiculous on the publishing.
To put it in perspective, before Lips of an Angel went to top 40, I believe Extreme Behavior, which was the name of the Hinder album, was sitting right around 250 to 300,000 sold. By the time Lips of an Angel had its run at top 40 and was number 1 at top 40, 3 million records.
Wow. That's huge.
that right there is the difference between a top 40 audience and the rock audience when it comes to radio.
I guess I have trouble kind of pathing them together. Why is there such a big difference? Is it the kids?
I think that's
is it
part
the
of
parents?
it.
Is it
I think the parents is the big part of it. I think, the rock audience, for the most part, is, teenagers and on up, most of which probably have access to the internet and are savvy enough to go, I want that song, I'm going to go and find it.
Right.
Whereas when you get into the top 40 world, you're dealing with, kids all the way up. And when, little Sally says, Mommy, I want that Lips of an Angel song for Christmas, Mom goes to Walmart
and
buys
the country version, too.
Right. And mom goes to Walmart and buys the disc.
Right.
That's in my opinion, that's the difference.
Yeah, because she's hearing it on a station that she may listen to.
Right.
Or
she just knows, okay, this is what I need to go get my kid. Time to go to the store and get it.
Right. Now, what did their second record do with All American Nightmare? How did they do
that
with
was the third
record.
Take It to the Limit went gold. The
second one was,
went gold. And that, there's a lot of good rock product on that. A lot of good rock product. And there were some good top 40 crossover songs on there as well. But, look, that band is a rock band. It always will be. Despite what any outside forces might want to have made them become, that band's a rock band. And there's
Lips
nothing
of an
wrong
Angel
with
does
that.
not define that band at all.
Absolutely not. It's
great song.
Right. It's like, there's a lot of people who don't realize that far before Sugar Ray released the song Fly, Sugar Ray was a punk band.
Right.
Number one, they used to be called the Shrinky Dinks and really rocked. And then if you go back and listen to the first Sugar Ray record and even the second record that had Fly on it, there's a lot of awesome, punk rock music on there.
Right.
But then Fly came out and they went, you mean we can make this song over and over and over again and have boats and mansions and all that? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm in.
And that's it.
Mark McGrath money.
Yeah, same thing with the Goo Goo Dolls. Same thing with a lot of bands of that era.
Now, that's a band that almost died.
Yeah.
Goo Goo Dolls. Without Iris, they would have been dead.
Absolutely.
So,
that's
it's brutal.
It's almost like the devil went down to Georgia thing. Like, do you want to sell your soul and chase the top $40? Because
please.
But here's the thing.
I know.
I
say that lightly. I'm just kidding.
If you hit, you're golden.
Right.
But if you don't, you've now painted yourself into a corner. And do you risk alienating your rock fan base?
Right.
Not to say that you can't go back, but there's
it's a hard transition back.
Yes.
Look at for instance, Nickelback.
Yep.
Was a big active rock band, but they had that vibe that they would cross over anyway. Once they crossed over, they've done a fairly good job of managing it without, you have your closet Nickelback fans and the people that hate them. How can you hate?
Well,
I don't understand that. I never will.
Nickelback is Creed. Everyone wants to say they hate them, and I defy you to go out in the street tonight and go to a bar and ask anyone in the bar if they like Nickelback and find someone that says yes. But you don't sell 3 million records every time and sell out Verizon Wireless every time and not have fans.
Right. What if people wear bags over their heads to the Nickelback concert? I don't want anyone to know we're here. Hey, Tom.
Hey, how are you?
How are you, buddy?
I was listening to your conversation out in the car. Fantabulous. Nice. Good stuff.
Do you like that stuff?
2% of the world are Creed fans. The other 98% can't admit it.
That's kind of the truth. It really is.
I went to the Creed show.
It's fine.
It was a Creed show.
Oh, that was the night you got mugged down in
jacked.
Soulard. Yeah.
Nice. Go figure. Well,
those damn Creed fans, man.
With
They're
Nickelback,
thugs.
say what you will about Nickelback, but those guys put on a show.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not personally a fan, but I've seen them play a few times, and they're if I'm putting down $60 for a ticket,
they're great at what they do.
I want to see more than you just stand there and play your instrument. And I always use the Dave Matthews reference. I remember I was an intern at the point back in the late 90s when Dave Matthews was really hitting its stride. And he played, at the time, it was still Riverport. And it was the hottest ticket in the world. And the last minute I got a ticket, I was like, I'm going to go see Dave Matthews.
What would you say?
Oh, my God. It could have been the most boring thing I've ever seen.
Really?
Well, he doesn't do anything. He's a phenomenal musician, but I don't need a 12-minute.
Has he developed that at all?
They
Not
jam,
really.
man.
Yeah, I don't need a 12-minute version of Ants Walking. I don't.
And the chicks are hot, though.
I agree. especially if you catch them on the day of the week they've decided to shower, they're fantastic.
Yeah, no doubt, right? I went to a Grateful Dead concert, and it was
It's
like,
the same
I don't
thing.
think any, yeah, same thing. It was there was nothing to the stage whatsoever. It was just, they were up there,
Except
they're
the
plugged
chicks
in.
had hair under their
Right.
eyes.
Yeah, that's the only difference. There was
and
some
better
kind of
weed.
evolution or
Yep.
something. Yeah.
The only difference between Dave Matthews and Fish and Grateful Dead is that Dave Matthews got his start in mainstream radio and then branched out, whereas those guys were always what they were, and with the exception of Touch of Grey, the Grateful Dead has really never been a radio band. But
Yeah.
they're all that same style. They get up there and jam, and their audiences eat it up, and that's fine. It's just not for me.
Right.
I would honestly put myself more towards the Nickelback side. Like, if I'm going to pay money,
You want to see a show.
I want to see a show.
Theatrics
Entertain
and
me.
the fire and the...
Yeah, entertain me.
Like a Pink Floyd show. You want to see
Yep.
lights. You want to see crazy. Yeah, I get it. I get it. All right, well, we got a bunch of stuff we're going to get to tonight. I got so many questions that I want to ask you about
Okay.
just different things and kind of the industry of, you're working for Q Prime, and I
Yep.
kind of look at them as kind of a hybrid management company, because it's not normal that management companies have radio,
staff,
a promotion staff.
It's becoming more the norm, but we definitely were on the leading end of it.
Absolutely. So I want to get into that. And
In
go ahead.
case you want to look that up, Q Prime, it says, we do not accept any unsolicited materials and are currently not looking for any demo submissions at this time.
I really want to get that tattooed on my forehead. You have no idea.
Getting a lot of CDs, are you?
I mean, not a ton, but every time someone finds out that through a friend or a relative of what I do, they want me to listen to their friend's band, and it's like, okay, I'll listen to it. I don't. It's not like I don't have a stack of contracts in my trunk and can go, let's go.
I got one for you. You can carry around with you.
Right,
It just sets F off.
Perfect.
Sign here, and I don't
Right.
have to listen. No
Sign
more.
here and go away.
Talking to Midwest Radio Promotions rep Haas from Q Prime.
Yeah,
Haas. That's what I was like. Well, commonly known around here as Haas.
He's Haas to me.
call
Right.
me whatever you want. I've been
Exactly.
called
With all
many
due
horrible things.
respect, it's
Oh,
Haas to me.
please. I'm always going to be Haas in something else. I always tell people, it's always funny when I bring a band into St. Louis for the first time that I've had to work with, and it usually happens around Point Fest or something like that, where there's a lot of people from the radio station or whatever around, and they'll be talking to my bands without me around, and they'll talk about Haas this and Haas that and Haas this, and inevitably, by the end of the night, someone pulls me aside and goes, who is this Haas person that everyone keeps talking about? And it's like my
Who is
big
this Haas
It's like my
character?
big Obi-Wan moment from Star Wars where I'm like, he is me.
I am Haas.
I am he. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. All right, well, let's take a break. We're going to hit Logos coming out of this break. A new song by them called Like Father, Like Son. Pretty good band. If you haven't seen them, the lead guitar player, singer, amazing.
Nice.
Amazing. Very young. He started very young and very good talent. So this is Logos, Like Father, Like Son. We'll be back here with the Midwest Music Explosion on TalkSTL.com here in a minute.
You were the only war that I couldn't wait to begin. But I've been leaving from the moment that I walked in. I wasn't here for long, and I'm ready for change. I disappear, I run, I wonder what my mother's gonna say. Like father, like son, yeah. Like father,
is a brand new full-length album from Brook Royal. Cycles of Life and Sound, featuring Show Your Teeth. The Last Time We're Okay. And Put Up, featuring Dan Marsala of Story of the Year. Cycles of Life and Sound, the new full-length from Brook Royal, available April 2013.
He sold more comedy albums than any recording artist in history. Weird Al Yankovic is coming live. The Alpocalypse Tour. Friday, April 19th at the Family Arena. With three-time Grammy winner, Weird Al Yankovic. Get all the latest news and more at WeirdAl.com. New album Alpocalypse available now. Reserve seats available now at the Family Arena box office and online at Metrotix.com.
If you feel that quitting smoking is a mission impossible, it's time to try the real alternative to smoking cigarettes. Start vaping with USA Puff and Stuff. Why waste your money on gas station throwaways? USA Puff and Stuff works with you to get the perfect combination the first time. Your vaping experience begins with education, and you get to try it before you buy it. With over 100 flavors to choose from, tobacco, menthol, Havana banana, blueberry, and even maple cured bacon. All flavors made right here in the United States. The premium kit sells for $64.95 and includes 2 batteries, 2 clear tanks, heating elements, hard case, charger, and a lanyard. 30 milliliters of e-juice sells for $12.95, and once you try it, you'll realize there is no alternative. Located inside Old Town Kettles and Cups, 13 East Pierce Boulevard in Wentzville, or at usapufandstuff.com. It's time for you to start vaping today.
When will your ship roll in with the answers to
Explosion. On TalkSTL.com.
Our boy Emmett with the dubstep. The skill Rex, isn't it? I think that's what he used for the background.
I've reluctantly started to listen to Skrillex and all that stuff just because there's something happening there.
Right.
Like, you're seeing all this stuff, and I still have a hard time with the fact that I saw a clip of Skrillex where he's doing his thing, and then he walks away from behind his computer or whatever and stands out and like hypes up the crowd for 30 seconds, and the music's still going and like changing notes and all that, and I'm like, what are you exactly doing?
He's pressing play, Oz.
Right. Essentially, like I want to understand. And there's a guy who's our West Coast rep who's huge into electronic music and grew up with it, and he's tried to explain it to me. And I still don't get how it works, but the one thing he said that I thought was really interesting was, your average rock fan or pop music fan will go to a concert and they'll scream and make noise when they hear something they recognize.
Right.
Whereas your electronic music fan will go and make noise when they hear something they've never heard before. Which is interesting. It's a different point of view to look at.
I could see that, where there's like a cool sound or something that just like the way they do the lights or something else reacts.
It's best when it kicks in, man.
Yeah, dude.
Once it kicks in, it's awesome.
See, I couldn't sit there all night and listen to that. I would have like a seizure or something.
Right. And I just like, that scene where he walks away from his little rig for a solid 30 seconds and the music keeps going, and it's not like it's just a sustained note. Like the music is going and changing pitches and tunes and
You know
notes.
what they call that in rock and roll? Lip syncing.
Right. Like so if you can walk away for 30 seconds and your song keeps going and it's not just like a sustained single note, what exactly are you doing?
Fatboy Slim over there in the UK's.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, the festivals. That he puts.
It's huge.
I've never been, but I've seen pictures.
Yeah.
And there's 300,000 people there.
Lollapalooza, I've watched. I've covered Lollapalooza for the different companies I've worked for from all the way back in 2005 till now. And it's been interesting to see. They started, I think in 2006 was the first year that Perry started an EDM area that they called Perry's, which was DJs and electronic music and things like that. And it's slowly grown each year to the point that last year it was just as big of an area as the area marked off for the main stage.
What type of music you listen to? EDM.
Yeah, those
EDM.
What's that?
electronic dance music, also known as, if you
really?
say,
I learned something new today.
also known as the next
Like
person who
blood
says
pressure or
EDM
something.
to me gets throat punched.
You got
been
long
lucky enough
arms,
not to-
too. Cause
Right, I got to reach, say it and run.
Probably come out the back of your neck. Big old paws. Chris Frank joining us from Q Prime Management, Midwest Radio Promotions representative, whatever you want to say. The man.
Sure. Yeah.
Director of rock.
God, that's. I wish that was. We were joking before we went on the air that was my title at Universal.
That is a cool title,
dude.
though.
It's the greatest title I'm ever gonna have.
That actually said it on your card.
Yep, Director of Rock.
Said
it
Chris
was
Frank, Director of Rock.
Single-handedly the greatest pickup line I ever got to use in my entire life.
What do you
Who
do
are
for that?
I'm the Director of Rock.
here's my card.
Here's my card.
And it even says
That
it on
says, and it had Universal Records, Director of Rock.
That's just badass.
I had the good
So
fortune
awesome.
of going to a hockey game with him, and it is an experience like you will never experience. You want to go again. I've been once. I can't wait to go again. He's going like this, I guess.
It's fun
when?
time. I'm going to go tomorrow night for that's the first game I've gone to all year.
Really?
He walks in the C's part.
Yeah.
Oh, you got your seat right here. We got a buffet right over here.
Oh, nice.
Pretty nice. I stumbled upon that by accident one year, and it spoiled me because, I mean, obviously, look, I'm 7 foot tall. Like, I don't fit.
You
in
don't
the
fit in
seats.
331.
Right, not well.
Row Q.
Not very well.
Seat 12.
Right. Oh, you got to go to the
Excuse
bathroom
me.
standing up,
Coming
sitting down.
through. Coming through.
Right.
Yeah, he's kind of tall.
Where's that big guy that sits in 12?
Right, and 13, and the next row down. But yeah, it's great because you sit at a real table with chairs, and I was like, oh my god, I fit. So to me,
that's pretty
it's
cool.
worth going and doing it just for not to have to be like cramped like this for the entire game.
Thank you.
Well, where's
Q-
my invite?
Q Prime.
Q Prime. Thank you, Q Prime. Right? Where's my invite? Come on.
I can't wait for my CFO to hear this.
Oh, that's what you're doing.
Oh, I didn't mean to make
No,
any
you're fine.
waves. That's the last thing I want to do. Cheers. I'm just sitting over here drinking an Natty Light.
you're
Don't
fine.
mind me, Hoss.
A couple of things I wanted to get into with you. I mean, based on what you do for a living with Q Prime and the model of management companies now, because obviously I own my management company, but I would never say it's anywhere near what Q Prime is by no means. I look at myself as more of like kind of developmental stages, and getting them to another level. And Q Prime has been that kind of the hybrid model by adding like the radio promotion department. And I'm sure there's many other levels of, including marketing and the promotions marketing, distribution. I think they're doing their own distribution as well. Don't they have a label now as well?
We have a co-op that we do with a label called Mom and Pop Records.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're pretty much in-house powerhouse.
In some regards, we just this year started two of our bands now are on their own label, which is Metallica, who is now no longer on Warner Brothers and started Blackened Records. So we're kind of the de facto record label staff for them now too. And then a band we have called Dawes, which is the same way, that just started their own record, Hub Records, and they were on a little indie label for a while. So it's really interesting to have worked on four sides of this industry now, being, I worked in a record store and sold records, and I worked on the radio and, pushed records. And now I've worked at a record label and a management company, and essentially doing the same job at the label and management, but our end game is very different on the label side as opposed to the management side. Whereas at a record label, you live and die by the record sale. Like the record sales is really where you're going to make your money. Except nowadays there's
model is the record sale.
I mean, nowadays you're seeing labels trying to sign 360 deals, which for the average person means that your label is going to give you more money, but in return of that they get a percentage of your merchandise sales, like T-shirts and whatnot.
Well, sometimes they're not even giving you more money for that. They're just giving that. I mean, the deals
you can stay at the deal
in a rock side of things. Sure. I don't know how it is with the pop side.
Sure. So it's. Everyone is coming to the realization now, and we hinted on that in the first break, that as the days of physical product and even digital product slowing down, the two revenue streams that artists have left are touring and merch. Because you can't download a T-shirt, you can't download a concert experience.
That happens.
And every guy, and everyone wants a piece of that now.
Right.
And the labels know that. And the labels know that, the one thing that they had to hang their hats on for the longest time was record sales, and those are going away.
Right.
So, it's what I do is the same from what I did at Motown as opposed to Q Prime. But Q Prime a couple years ago, they've had my boss, Warren Christensen, has been at Q Prime for years. And he was brought in as the radio guy. But it became apparent over the last 5 years to them that, hey, the label models are changing. Labels are consolidating. 10 years ago, there was a ton of record labels. And now you're really down to a big three. And within those is, tons of these other imprints and whatnot. Like, when I was an assistant at Interscope Records, I would answer the phone and say Interscope, Geffen, A&M, DreamWorks Records.
Right.
Those are four.
It's a mouthful.
Right. Those are four distinct record labels that everyone knows.
Right.
You don't need to be a music junkie to know Geffen Records, to know A&M Records, to know Interscope Records, and to know DreamWorks.
Right.
But it was all one company.
Right.
Like it was all one staff. And it's been getting smaller and smaller and smaller that, Q Prime sat back and said, we need an extra layer of insulation on our artists. We need to find people that we can trust to go out and fight the fight on the promotion side, because it's one of those things where everyone's got their own agenda of what they want to do. Artists, management, label, everyone.
Right.
And we try to work hand in hand with our partners. It's not like I'm brought in to try to push out my label counterpart and shut him out and take all the credit and isolate him from what we do. I'm working hand in hand because it's another voice and it's another body in there to help get accomplished what we all want to get done, because we're all working for the same thing. We all want to succeed. We all want our bands to headline arenas and festivals and sell records.
Well, and just to be clear, like, okay, so you're doing the radio promotion of it, and then there's a dedicated person to the management side of thing, and there's a dedicated
we have
person
our managers.
to the product special. Or,
Sure, we have day-to-day people
product
who handle
manager,
everything. Right.
Things like that.
Yeah. So it's it's very, very interesting, and I feel like I've learned a ton more in the 2 years that I've been at Q Prime on a much quicker scale than I really thought I would. I was with Universal Records for 7 years, and then 3 years before that with Interscope. So UMG, Universal Music Group.
Now that was with Martin's, right?
Correct.
You were Tom there?
Yeah. So I was within the Universal Music Group umbrella for almost a decade, and I got to see what it was like to be in the field. I worked out of the home office in LA and saw what it was like to be inside the monster.
Right. Inside the belly of the beast.
Really, it is. And it's that my first year at Q Prime, it was very interesting to try to realize, okay, this is a different model. We have to fight this way. There's certain things that we can do. There's certain things we can't do. How do we all band together and push forward, be it label, artist, and us as management, and get everything accomplished?
Well, last week we had Adam and Ryan in from Greek Fire Store of the Year, and
Right.
they got this Who Killed or Saved the Music Industry. And, we talked, and, it's an exciting time,
Yeah.
but it's also a very scary time.
For sure.
But everything is kind of cross-pollinating as far as genres.
Yeah.
A lot of that's going on. Like when we signed our deal in 2000 with Mesh,
Yep.
it was with The Firm, which was kind of their idea of a hybrid label, because it was
Right.
the label,
Right.
but we had separate management, and they brought Joe Litvag, our manager, with them. But at the end of it, they were wanting that everything together. It was leaning back that 10 years
Yeah,
ago. Now it seems like it's actually working in that fashion a lot better than just being on a label and having a
Yes
manager.
and no. We have tried for a long time to make sure that the artists that we manage aren't on the label, the manager and the artists that we have on a label we don't manage.
Okay, so that you do have a separation there. I mean, you're not.
There's some with the building of Blackened Records and Hub Records. We're starting to see a little cross of that. But there is good things to be said for having more than one person in a room talking.
Absolutely.
Because you may think that you have the clear shot of what is best, and sometimes it takes someone going, well, what if we just do this, and you've never thought about that way, and then that makes sense. So there's I think it's equally important to have obviously good management and good record labels. The biggest thing that a management, in my opinion, and this isn't me speaking on behalf of the company, this is just me, is I think that the management's first job, and you can probably speak to this as a manager too, is to be that buffer between your artist and your label.
And it's funny you say that, because that is that's pretty much what the job is.
Yeah.
And the band has a hard time understanding that.
Well,
because the label doesn't necessarily want to pass this information directly to the band, and your manager should be someone you trust anyway, and more of a friend, where he can come to you and say, look, this is really what it is. You got to trust that person, and that middle manager.
There
person
has to be trust.
Absolutely.
Because in regards to an artist, and I don't know if you had a chance to listen or see Dave Grohl's speech from South by Southwest.
I did not.
It's really good. It's every bit of an hour long, but it's really good.
Is it something that you can get on YouTube or whatever?
You can YouTube Dave Grohl South by Southwest keynote speech.
Hey, Joe, see if you can find that and put a link of that maybe up on the chat room, something like that. I'd like to see that too.
The whole focus of his speech was the artist comes first. And I think that an artist needs to be able to focus on being an artist. Do what they do best. Write songs, tour, be creative, do what they do. And that's where, you want a strong management and a strong record label to have your best interests at heart to move the business side forward.
How many bad manager stories are there?
Oh, I'm sure any band, I'm sure, has a million of them,
Millions.
But it's
you got to have someone to blame.
Sure,
and that's what it comes down to. They're probably
Absolutely.
not doing anything wrong, and they're not as successful as they want to be. And the first person to get blamed is us as managers.
Well, and no one wants to hear their baby's ugly. They just don't. No one wants to hear.
And the bands that I manage, I love everything they do. I mean, they're like my kids too. You know what I mean? But and I'll say, and it's hard to go back and say that they're not hearing a single here.
Right.
Now I may hear something, but I'm also very invested into it too. You know,
Sure.
They don't have 2-3 weeks to sit in the studio and listen to a song over and over and go, "Wow, there is a catch here. I really like what's going on." And it's that there's a fine line between that one song that they hear one time and go, "Wow, I need to hear that again. There's something cool about this. Something's going on here."
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and it's a gem.
Yeah.
And it's not found
I'm
often.
sure every artist in the world could complain about their management or their label. Or
just call Brooke Royal.
But I mean, even within the band, like it's there's always people who get along and then they don't, and then they do, and then they don't. It's like any other relationship, I'm sure.
If you're a band and you have a manager, that manager should be a trusted friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the least.
Well,
No?
yes and no, because it's worked that way for me, okay, with the bands that I manage. But I'm not on a scale of like a Q Prime or something like that.
I mean,
you want to use them not use them, but be with them because of the connections that they have, the power that they have. But you got to make sure that they really believe in and they understand what you want out of your career.
And
because you can get lost in what they want for your career.
Sure. And I don't even pretend to be on the level of the guys who are actually our managers, be it Cliff and Peter and
I don't
else.
either. I honestly do not.
I know my job and I know my marching orders each week, and that's go get songs played on the radio. You know, the big picture stuff, like we get clued into from time to time, but as far as the actual day-to-day management of bands, so far above my pay grade that
Unfortunately, it is mine too. But I mean, I could sit down and have a conversation with them, and probably they may learn something from me. I know I'm going to learn a lot from them.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, it's just being in the trenches with your band and understanding what your band wants and what the common goal is.
The biggest thing you can do in the world for, you know, be it as a label guy or anyone in the industry who's not an artist is to go out and be with your bands and see what they're doing live and see how the crowd's reacting and things like that, because that's where you're really going to – that's the litmus test.
Right.
You know, you can manufacture hits. You know, you can play the radio game, but you know, being out in the trenches with your bands is where you really get a vibe for what's going on.
I've definitely played the radio game a few times with a lot of bands myself.
Yeah.
My
I know
bands,
nothing
and
about it.
if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't even be sitting here, I don't think.
Me too.
We're not sitting around here. Hey, we didn't join here to jerk each other off.
Right.
Let's jump to a break real quick. I want to play. We got a show coming up at Pops. Brooke Royal's actually releasing their CD, Shaman's Harvest Fivefold. I did ask what OATM was. It's Odom. That's how they pronounce it. They go by Odom, one of the local bands. But this next song is from Brooke Royal's new record. It's called Running Around. I think this is probably my favorite track off the new record. So this is Brooke
I'll
Royal
let you know
Running
what I think
Around.
after I hear it.
Oh, yeah. See if you can get him a deal. Can you listen
Sure,
to
I
my
got one in
band?
the trunk. I'll
Hey,
take it.
listen to my band, Hoss?
Hey, Scotty, your baby's ugly.
Come on.
What a dick.
We're just busting balls. Come on. It's Midwest Music Explosion on TalkSTL.com.
I see a broken woman, it looks like she's in need. Her head is in her hands and she's down upon her knees. If I could only reach her, I think I'd have to say, let's take a trip together, let's try and get away. It doesn't really matter if there's courage at all, 'cause up until this point we've been chasing the fall. I hope that you will take my hand and follow along. All you have to do is hold on. We'll keep running around. I wanna run around
Arena football has landed in St. Charles. The Missouri Monsters are here and kick their season off on March 8th at 7:30 inside the renovated Family Arena. Monsters football is fast action, high-scoring fun for the whole family. Tickets start at just $7. Get season tickets by calling 636-395-0896. Tickets are on sale now and are available at the Family Arena box office or at MetroTix.com. St. Charles, get ready because there are now monsters in the Little Hills.
Hey, it's Coach from my friends at Rookie's Bar and Grill right here in Wentzville, where every Wednesday night is steak night. This is a deal you just can't beat. $8.49 will get you a steak and a side. $2 extra will buy you a salad. Oh, yeah, and they do $2 Bud Selects all day on Wednesday as well. And don't forget about their $1.25 draft beers during every Cardinal, Blue, Ram, and Mizzou sporting event. That's Rookie's Bar and Grill, 1544 South Service Road, right here in Wentzville, Missouri.
If you feel that quitting smoking is a mission impossible, it's time to try the real alternative to smoking cigarettes. Start vaping with USA Puff and Stuff. Why waste your money on gas station throwaways? USA Puff and Stuff works with you to get the perfect combination the first time. Your vaping experience begins with education, and you get to try it before you buy it. With over 100 flavors to choose from, tobacco, menthol, Havana banana, blueberry, and even maple cured bacon. All flavors made right here in the United States. The premium kit sells for $64.95 and includes 2 batteries, 2 clear tanks, heating elements, hard case, charger, and a lanyard. 30 milliliters of e-juice sells for $12.95, and once you try it, you'll realize there is no alternative. Located inside Old Town Kettles and Cups, 13 East Pierce Boulevard in Wentzville, or at usapufandstuff.com. It's time for you to start vaping today.
Before you go, let's just rewind and tape over everything I said unkind. I
brutal, right?
I was like,
You were listening to Midwest Music Explosion on TalkSTL.com.
Welcome back to the Midwest Music Explosion on TalkSTL.com. That last song there called Saved by a buddy of mine, Stephen Huntley from Minneapolis,
That's
up in the
really
Minnesota. It's different, right?
I like that. See, now I'm very blues-influenced rock. I could listen to that all day.
What was the band? Silvertide. Did you like Silvertide?
I love Silvertide.
Oh, I love that band. Love that band. I like that blues influence, too, that rock blues influence. That's good stuff. Good stuff. You don't see it. You don't hear enough of it anymore.
No, you don't. You just don't.
It just doesn't exist, but I do love it. I do love it. Let's get a little bit more into the on your side of things with the management company and doing the radio promotion. Mm-hmm. Part of the things that we want to do with the show is kind of, I guess, inform bands that and you know a lot about the local scene here. Obviously, you're from here. You've been from here for as long as I've known you. Anyway, this is where you were from. You live in what? Lake St. Louis?
O'Fallon.
O'Fallon.
Same thing.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Same thing as Wentzville, Lake St. Louis, O'Fallon.
The Westplex.
The Westplex, yeah. That's the big word, the Westplex. But, kind of teach these bands some things that they need to know. Some things that work. Things that they can be doing that they're not doing. And laziness is not an option.
It's really not. I've always said for years that getting a record deal is probably the easiest part of making it as a band. And you can attest to that. Once you get a deal, that's when the real work begins.
Yeah, and even before that, it took us forever to get a deal. Look at a band like Cavo. They started in 2000, signed a deal in 2008.
Look, the days of being in a band and having one great show and you come off stage and there's an A&R guy who's like, this is great, let's go. It's done.
We're great. We're going to make you a big pop star.
Right.
Just sign right here, Palsy.
The other thing that I've noticed over the years is that it seems like the industry as a whole, artist development is now a 4-letter word. You just don't, it doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. You almost as an artist want to be to the point where you don't need a record label before you're going to get a record label.
I would agree with that statement, 100%.
You need to be able to show a label that you can tour, that you can sell tickets, you can sell CDs all on your own. I would say the most important thing for a band is to get a good recording. You could have the best songs in the world, but if you can't hold someone's attention when they're listening to your demo, you're done. The other thing, get it sound scanned. Because it's one thing to say, oh, yeah, we sell records. But when someone in New York or L.A. can punch up SoundScan on a Wednesday and see, oh, wow, you sold 500 records, or you sold this, or you've sold 15,000 records on your own. Like, that's saying something. Like, if you're scratching and clawing by yourself and moving product, then there's something to be said there. That's real. You need to be able to have tangible numbers. You could have the biggest fan club in the world, and that's great. But you got to be able to do things on your own.
Talking to Chris Frank, Midwest Radio Promotions for Q Prime. I would imagine you don't do it anymore, but back in the day, how long would it take for a single to either yes or no it? 30 seconds? 45 seconds?
It's weird now. I've always said that the 60 seconds is really the mark. Like, you need to be able to hit the hook of your song pretty quick. There's been changes from the radio side with what we deal with how radio stations can monitor the success of a song. Now there's things called M-scores, and there's now there's technology in place that radio stations can see when someone punches out of the radio station. And so you can tell if someone's listening. But it's a flawed science. Like, you could tell, I was playing, this song and I had, X amount of people punch out and the scores were negative or whatever. But what it doesn't tell you is, why did that person punch out? Were they just surfing? Were they only on your station for 15 seconds? Were they this and that and that?
Right.
So, but as far as a band, what you need to do is, like, you got to work, man. Like, don't think that you get signed and you're, going to go buy your first Bentley. Like, it's just not going to happen.
I lost mine.
Be prepared. Yeah. Be prepared to live out of a suitcase for 3 years.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about that last week with Adam and Ryan from Greek Fire Store of the Year about touring and, the hype about being in a tour bus. And, it's cool for about a week. And then it's a tour bus with 6, 7, 8 stinky dudes in it that, you get tired of being around.
Well,
I mean, you don't get tired of being around them, but it does get tight. And it's not.
Sure.
I mean, obviously you're having the time of your life. Don't get me wrong.
Of course.
But it's not all what it's cracked up to be. It's just not. Not everyone has their own bus.
Well,
It's
and
not
that's
like
the
big
thing is like
stars.
all those tour buses cost money.
Yes,
It's
they
coming
do.
from somewhere. Where do you think that money's coming from?
The labels, tour support, and then you never recoup. So it's like you might as well
that's
stay in
the
the
key
vein.
word right there.
Yeah, recoup.
Like, I mean, as an artist, you want to be frugal because, you want to live the rock star lifestyle because that's why you got into this. Like, the term sell out, I think, is the most ridiculous term in the world because if you don't want to sell out, then never sign a deal and just play your friends' parties for the rest of your life and be happy about it.
Yeah.
But if you want to be a career musician, you're going to sell out. And that's not selling out. This is my job.
Yeah, you're advancing in your career.
Correct. So along with that, you want to be frugal in the standpoint of, sure, I could probably get a tour bus for the first tour if I wanted to, but do I really have that money to spend? The label will likely front it for you, but it's not because they're your
free.
best
It's a
friends.
loan, yeah.
Yeah, it's a loan like anything else. You're going to pay that money back.
Well, this, the whole thing about what bands can do, with all the advance and stuff like that, I think being very frugal at first is key.
Yep.
Be on the road for a year and a half, 2 years in a van.
But it's
you
gotta
don't
be-
need a tour bus.
It's got to be hard.
It's very hard.
It's
Oh,
got to be
it's
hard
an-
once
it's-
you see that check, whatever that number is. Like when you
Well,
first
see,
get.
but
when
that's
you
the
first-
thing. They don't see that check.
Yeah.
That's a check that comes through management and everything else, and they say, okay, we're going to give you tour support, and this is the budget we're going to give you for this length of time for a 2-month run, and you budget that in, and then all of a sudden you're $80,000 in debt because you had a tour bus out for 2 months. You got fuel, you got the driver, you got overdrives, you got the bus itself, you got hotel rooms for the driver, hotel rooms for yourself.
Yep.
I mean, you add all that stuff up, it gets high really
in the
quick.
meantime, your drummer is handlebar into rum and doing the chick. And
that's
nobody's
all true.
drummer in particular. I'm just
right.
saying.
It's in it, but that's the truth. There's a lot of upfront costs that bands don't think about in the beginning, like because the initial excitement of we made it, we just got signed to a label. It's all gravy from here out, and that's just not the truth.
Right. No, I agree. One of the things I wanted to bring up was sound scans. And I know how you were talking about the sound scans where labels can go to sound scans, see all this, and it makes a big impression to labels. Like they can go in there and say, well, I see how many CDs you sold on this, Even if it was 6 months ago, it's still relevant to what they're trying to do and look at your story, your backstory. And there's companies out there that do this for bands on an independent level. Like if you don't have a label, you should look for a source that you can sound scan your albums at venue sales, internet sales. You're getting sound scans from iTunes and your distributors like CD Baby or TuneCore or things like that. But there are, when you're selling physical product, if you're selling more CDs and music at shows,
you want to get credit for it.
You need to get those venue sales in.
Absolutely.
And you need to find a company or an independent company that will do that as an independent label, report your sound scans for you,
It's
and every
important.
CD counts.
And you need the one thing that, and it's very hard as an artist, and I don't pretend to understand the artist side of it because I've never been a touring artist or a recording artist.
I thought he was the guest that... Get him out of here.
You're obviously friends with the people that you're in a band with.
Right.
But you have to treat it like what it is, and it's a business.
Right.
And you have to always protect your brand and your business, and you have to do what's best for your brand and your business. And
that's what got tough for me.
Yeah,
the business side of it.
Very
it really
much so.
did, because we were all so close.
Yep.
And we had our own problems without involving business in it.
Sure.
And then when you really got to start thinking about the business end of it, it's brutal.
It is. And especially in the beginning, dude, you play these shows, you want to be able to walk home, and even if it's $50 a person, you want to be able to go, I got $50 for playing my show tonight. But there's times where that $50 really could be invested in a betterment opportunity for the band.
Right.
That needs to happen.
Better merch.
Correct. Or whatever. Like anything that you guys need to further your profile and expand your profile and better what you're doing, that really needs to come first.
A cool jacket.
Yeah, anything.
You don't want to look like the guy sitting out there watching you.
Right. Unless that's your gimmick.
It is. I mean, I don't. I'm not saying you need to wear the shiny shirts and all that stuff. I want to get your perspective on this because there is a theatrics to it, but I don't want to go crazy on that because it doesn't matter as much. But you don't want to go out there and just in your regular tennis shoes.
You don't want to look like your roadies.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, you got to kind of put yourself at a level of this is what I do. You don't have to It's a tough cut. You know what I mean? It's like a fine line.
You almost got to put your ego. Like you got to have a separate.
You have to have a separate personality
on stage than you do off.
I think that's an extension of what we were talking about earlier with the Dave Matthews Band versus Nickelback type thing.
Right.
You know, obviously it's going to depend on what type of band you want to be. You know, do you want to be 30 Seconds to Mars, or do you want to be just an everyday guy?
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with either one. There's not. But you need to clearly define that as a band. You can't have 4 guys coming out in sparkly jackets and skinny jeans, and the other guy playing bass is wearing a Metallica shirt and Chucks.
Look at a band like, Aaron Lewis. He'll come out there in blue jeans and boots and a T-shirt and kills it.
Yep.
Awesome. But that's what he does. That's it. And it works for him.
Yeah.
And he's never tried to pretend to be anybody else.
Right.
Either.
And 30 Seconds to Mars. They're going to come out there with... He's going to come out with something crazy.
Yep.
Because
shiny
that's
leather, tight,
white
a
big
shoes.
jacket with the, that's Jared Leto. But it fits find your personality on stage.
One of the bands that I have right now that I've just spent time with, and it's an over-the-top theatrical show, is Muse.
Okay.
And, I mean, those guys, holy crap. Like, it's a visual show above and beyond what they do musically. And they're all phenomenal musicians. But that show, I took my dad to that show in St. Louis. It's the first show he's wanted to see in like 15 years. But, I mean, it's lasers and video screens everywhere. And Matt's got this, blazer that's like silver and black. And it's crazy. It's over the top. But that's what that crowd expects from that band.
Right.
And I think as long as you can clearly define what your image as a band is going to be, that's fine. And there's nothing that says in 5-10 years you can decide, let's do something else. Look at bands like My Chemical Romance. Look at bands like, look at Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Manson was the Hot Topic goth kids' Jesus for years. And then all of a sudden...
That's a great point, right?
And then Mechanical Animals comes out, and he's, glammed out in this weird alien suit with strawberry red hair and big glasses, and all the goth kids are looking around like, I don't know what to wear.
This is weird.
Right.
What happened to Jesus?
What happened to
We should dress Jesus on the cross in mass and big glasses and shiny
and
clothes.
You look at, and the same thing happened with My Chemical Romance. It seemed like every record they were changing their style. Their first few records, they almost looked like AFI Junior. And then Black Parade came out, and they were all very thematic and looked the same. And then this last record came out, Danger Days, and they were very post-apocalyptic glam, just like Marilyn Manson. And that's fine, but you're also, especially once you've established yourself and you've become a successful band, that anytime you change that image, you run the risk of your fans going, whoa, what's this?
Right.
Like, you may gain a few, you may lose a few, but, look, you're an artist and you have to do what you want to do. But especially, I think, in the early days, you need to find something and stick with it. And the band that, when I was in St. Louis doing the local show, I think did a really, really good job of that as far as finding a cool show on a local band budget was Neptune Crush. Full on Venus / Neptune Crush. I think Greek Fire is the band that does that now.
Yeah.
The first few times I ever saw Greek Fire, I turned around and I'm like, this band's ready to tour right now. They look the part. They sound the part. They get out there and own the crowd. They also
had the step from Story of the Year to kind of gear them up for that. I mean, they know what they're doing. I mean, and that's kind of this. And I know, I don't want to bring up the Brook Royal guys are the same way. I can not tell them what to do on stage.
Sure.
They have it in their head what they do, and they do it
and
well.
That's fine. And they do it successfully.
Right.
Like that band has their audience, and they know what their audience wants, and they deliver. And that's fine.
Same with Greek Fire. You look at them, and you just know that they got it. They're rehearsing. And that was one of the things that got brought up is rehearsal is not practice.
No.
You practice at home. You come to rehearsal to put the show together.
That's right.
And that's the difference. And a lot of bands take rehearsal as practice.
Yep.
And that's not going to work for you. If that's what you're doing,
you should
you're wasting
practice
your time.
every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then rehearse once, twice a week with your band. Maybe every day.
Yeah.
If you guys can do it, do it.
But I think, as far as what bands need to do on the local side, like that's it. know when to pass an opportunity up, but don't pass many up.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, but no.
Yeah. I mean, there's a fine line between getting out and playing and oversaturating your market. You don't want to get to the point as a band where you're playing every week in the same city here, because your fans will get to the point where they'll go, I don't need to see him this week. I can go next week or the week after or the week after. And if enough people say that, and that's the show that someone's coming in to see you, and then there's no one there,
Right.
it's bad luck.
So is it 6 shows a year?
I mean, there's no number.
Or is there no? There is no number.
There's really no number. But I mean, like, you know, obviously you want to get out and play. And it's very hard to tell a band, don't play. It's very hard to have that conversation with a band and say, you can't play this show.
Well, and then you got the aspect of, you know, a local band. They're doing this to make a little money, too.
Sure.
And if they have an opportunity to make money, you don't want to turn it down. You want that money.
Right.
All right, we're up against a hard break, according to Joe Pro. I just wanted to say that once. Anyway, we'll
How
jump
does
to
it
a
feel?
break.
Does it feel good?
Yeah, it feels great.
You can try it again.
Actually, nah.
It's Chris Frank, Midwest Radio Promotions for Q Prime on Midwest Music Explosion. TalkSTL.com.
I can't be a want it all and I want it now. Whatever the price, I'll figure it out. You won't stop me and you won't slow me down. I want it all and I want it now. Whatever the price, I'll figure it out. You can't break me and you won't drag me down. Knowing what I'm feeling, it's always been the same. In the blink of an eye, yes, everything changed. You can knock me down and I get back up. You can try it again until you got enough. All I ever wanted was everything I told you over and over again. I want it all and I want it now. Whatever the price, I'll figure it out. You won't stop me and you won't slow me down. I want it all and I want it now. Whatever the price, I'll figure it out. You can't break me and you won't drag me down. Yeah, I'm taking what I want, yes, I found what I need. If it doesn't work, I got more on my sleeve, and I came this far, and I won't stop now. Keep building your walls, I'll keep knocking them down. I want it all and I want it now. Whatever the price, I'll figure it out. You won't stop me and you won't slow me down. I want it all and I want it now. Whatever the price, I'll figure it out. You can't break me and you won't drag me down. Ooh, I'm in the hell, I'm in the tail. I need it all to save my soul. I'm falling behind, I'll run out of time. I do what I can to save my soul. I want it all and I want it now. Whatever the price, I'll figure it out. You can't break me and you won't drag me down.
Brook Royal. Brand new. April 2013 brings a brand new full-length album from Brook Royal. Cycles of Life and Sound, featuring Show Your Teeth. The Last Time We're Okay. And Put Up, featuring Dan Marsala of Story of the Year. Cycles of Life and Sound, the new full length from Brook Royal, available April 2013.
Get out!
If you feel that quitting smoking is a mission impossible, it's time to try the real alternative to smoking cigarettes. Start vaping with USA Puff and Stuff. Why waste your money on gas station throwaways? USA Puff and Stuff works with you to get the perfect combination the first time. Your vaping experience begins with education, and you get to try it before you buy it. With over 100 flavors to choose from, tobacco, menthol, Havana banana, blueberry, and even maple cured bacon. All flavors made right here in the United States. The premium kit sells for $64.95 and includes 2 batteries, 2 clear tanks, heating elements, hard case, charger, and a lanyard. 30 milliliters of e-juice sells for $12.95, and once you try it, you'll realize there is no alternative. Located inside Old Town Kettles and Cups, 13 East Pierce Boulevard in Wentzville, or at usapufandstuff.com. It's time for you to start vaping today.
We are the offering of the dead. We are the used to be misled. We are the bastards, and may you never take us home. some. So take caution when we come. So make the best of our do some. Take your shot, you'll be much better when we go. And we are the offering of the dead. We are the used to be misled. We are the past of the man you never take us home. So take precaution when we come. Make the best of our do some. Take your shot, you'll be much better. Take your shot, you'll be much better. Take your shot.
You are listening to Midwest Music Explosion on TalkSTL.com.
Midwest Music Explosion on TalkSTL.com.
Mike Hogg.
That's exactly what I am. Chris Frank. Midwest Radio Promotions, Q Prime, and Scotty.
Tom was my crutch last week. I was really nervous on my first show.
I told him, don't be nervous. That was the only part, was the bring back, so I offered an arm. That's all, brother.
All right.
I was. I don't know why I was nervous. I probably shouldn't have been. I mean, we've been doing this for a year and a half, 2 years now. But I'm not. I've never been on.
The guy.
Yeah, exactly. So it was, it was a little awkward.
I get it.
I had to take a few Xanax. I mean,
We've all been there.
I took some tonight, and I'm not even nervous. Oh, goodness. No, we were talking about the SoundScan reporting, and I found the website that some bands can go to basically it's indiehitmaker.com.
Yeah.
Indiehitmaker.com. It's get on the Billboard charts. They have annual, monthly, and pay per report plans that you can sign up through them. They'll send you the sheet. You fax it to them after your show, and you get your SoundScan reported on a national level. So if you're having a big CD release party and you know you're going to sell 800 CDs, guess what? You're going to get on the Billboard chart if you do this.
Yeah.
Because 800 CDs is a lot of CDs for a rock band.
It's important. And that really, it's all tangible numbers. And that's really, like we were talking, it's a business. And you need to have something that you can point to and show these labels and whatever, that you're worth the risk. And that's what it is. It's a stocks game. And you as a band, you're a stock. And you are asking people to invest in you.
Right.
And, there's never a guarantee that it's going to pay out. You hope it does, but there's never a guarantee. And it's all about showing these people, here's why you want to invest in us.
Right.
Here's what we are doing. Here's what we have done. Here's what our plans are. Invest in us. Come be part of the ride. Right. That's really what it is.
When you're talking something as affordable, I mean, this is what they charge. $5 per show or $15 a week to report your sales. I mean, if you're playing enough shows, that no problem. Sell one CD, you pay for that report.
Sure.
Monthly, $33.
It's not bad.
$299 a year.
$300 a year. That's really not bad. If you're touring,
you're going to hit the road and Weekend Warrior, whatever.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah.
I mean, you play. If you go out of town 1 week in a month, you're going to pay for that over the course of the year.
But I need stripper cash.
Well,
I need stripper cash.
I get it. Look, I put it this way. Maybe that $300. Maybe you as a band make one less stop at McDonald's on the way back home.
Yeah.
Over the course of the
And it really
band.
comes to that, doesn't it? One less stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it all adds up.
Because your per diem
does.
goes quick. You usually eat. If you eat more than twice a day, you're lucky.
Yep.
And that's like the big tours where you get where the best are the tours where it's catered.
Yeah.
And you get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I mean, they're up cooking in the morning. You have omelets and everything ready to go. Lunch, you go in there. There's, it's spread out. Dinner, same thing. And then it's even a snack at night. You can go in there and grab something quick.
Yep. Or you be smart and you get to the point where you can have a hospitality rider and you make sure you have a lot of stuff on your hospitality rider that doesn't spoil quick.
Anything after 5 should be liquid.
You take all that stuff with you.
Loaves of bread, cold cuts.
Yeah. Anything after 5 should be liquid.
Hey, man, if the radio station is paying for it, let them pay for it.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. Like every penny counts. And like we were saying on the last break, I know that everyone wants to have a cut of change for, hey, I just played my show, I want my $50, but sometimes you guys as a band need to realize that the band has to come first. And
right.
if you have to eat the bullet a few times, then so be it.
Right. You said something earlier that I wanted to get into is like the recording is so important.
Yeah. I mean,
because if you do catch somebody's ear, you said earlier, you don't want it to sound like it's underwater.
Yeah.
I mean, and some of the stuff we're getting is, and I don't want to be critical because that's not what I want to do here, but
sure.
You can't play it. And it sucks because I want to be able to be that outlet, but you've got to spend more than,
Right.
And if you think you can do it yourself and it's just not working, then find someone, have the tracks there, have someone mix it.
Yeah.
Save some money that way.
My first real run-in with that was when I was doing the local show at the Point, and we'd get a ton of submissions. And, there'd be some that were really great. And then you'd get some where you could tell that, man, the song was there and the talent was there, but it sounded like it was recorded with one microphone 40 yards away.
Yeah, where the drums are real spaced out.
Yeah. And,
that's what we were hearing, too.
You need to be able to have a recording that is ready to go on the air. Because that's the name of the game. Like the best thing about radio, and the reason why there's people like me that do what we do, is every time one of our bands gets played on the radio, that's a free commercial. That's really what it is.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
We're hoping that people like that song and go buy the CD or go download the song legally off of iTunes or whatever, or go buy a concert ticket or go buy a T-shirt or something. That's what it is.
Well, you said that legally thing, and I told you I had that stat that I wanted to read to you. So I was scrolling through the internet and just looking at piracy and all this stuff, and $58 billion a year is lost, actual economic loss in the entertainment industry. Now that includes movies,
video games, everything.
Yeah, everything. $8 billion a year of that is music alone.
It's staggering.
Right. Okay. So with that being said, that's the equivalent of the entire American corn, fruit, wheat, cotton, tobacco, and rice all together failing in America.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
There is...
I can't even...
It doesn't make any sense.
Wrap your head around that.
I've said for years, long before I worked for Q Prime, long before I was associated with the fact that the company I work for manages Metallica, that back when Lars came out against Napster, what he said was 100% accurate. The problem is that the average working man doesn't want to hear a millionaire or billionaire complain about money getting taken out of his wallet. And that's just the truth. It's the same thing with back when the NBA went on strike in the 90s, and I believe, and I could have the name wrong, but I think it was Patrick Ewing made the comment, well, I know we make a lot of money, but we spend a lot of money too. And everyone was like, okay, you can go away now.
Douche.
Right. There is this misconception that the only people who are affected by the piracy of music are the millionaire rock stars, and that's simply not the case. You guys can come over to my house. I am the furthest thing from rich. The furthest thing.
Well, it crushes the dreams of bands that could potentially be the next big thing because they don't have the money to survive and maintain.
Right, and it really kills your startup bands because it becomes harder because of that $8 billion that is lost. It becomes harder for labels to invest the capital to grow a band. Unlike, a pop act where, let's just say, Britney Spears. When she started, she was probably going on tour and it was herself and maybe one or two backup dancers, maybe a DJ, maybe it was just a track. Whereas a rock band, you've got, on average, one singer, two guitar players, bass player, a drummer. Mm-hmm. Then you've also got probably one or two crew guys, all of who need to eat, need,
a bed,
need, just
And
daily
that's a luxury
life stuff.
sometimes. The
Right.
bed, you could sleep in the van on the
Right.
floor.
It
I've
is-
slept in between the seats on the floor because there wasn't enough room in the van. And that was my spot for a month.
It's so much more expensive to keep a rock band on the road than, say, a pop act or a hip-hop act because there's so much more moving parts. There's instruments, there's gear, there's all these things that some people like
technicians to keep that gear up.
Right. That, a lot
Cases.
of the pop and hip hop stuff don't have.
Right.
So, you take all that revenue out of that field. That's $8 billion a year that the labels don't have to invest. So it's all cyclical. It's not that Metallica or Nickelback or whoever, big band, insert big band name here, made all this money. They don't care if, I download their CD for free. Okay, well, there's a lot of people behind the scenes, like myself and people like that, who get affected by that. The other standpoint is, so what? That is their craft. That's their product. I dare you to walk into a McDonald's and order a Big Mac. And when they give you that Big Mac, go, hey, thanks, you've already sold 10 billion of these, so I'm just going to take this one and go. And see how long it takes for them to stop you or call the police.
Right.
Like, just because it's successful doesn't mean that you have the right to then take it.
Right.
It's no different than an artist who paints or an artist who's a carpenter or a metal worker or whatever. Like, they're still making their craft and their art, and they have the right to sell that art. Now, you have the right to say, well, I shouldn't have to pay for it, and that's fine. You have the right to say that, but you have to understand what you're really saying. It's not just, well, it's out there, I can take it. And I think this is the first generation of people who have been raised in a world where
a taker's situation.
Right,
yeah.
where you can easily go and find what you want and take it. But it's no different than the guy who goes to the factory each day and stamps out car parts for 8 hours. Like, he's still doing his job for a paycheck at the end of the day. That's
Right.
no different than any other band or musician. So you have to look at piracy from that angle. Like, and I was talking with Tom before we went on the air that Sony introduced that they're going to put out the PlayStation 4 this year. And there's discussion that they are going to introduce some sort of software within their games that once you buy a game and you take it home, you have to register it so that it is your game, which means that if I want to take my game to your house and play on your PlayStation, we have to be able to log into the PlayStation Network. I have to enter my passcode to unlock the game to play.
Wow.
What that will essentially do is kill places like GameStop and all those secondhand stores.
Oh, yeah, for the returns.
For the resales. If that happens, I wouldn't be surprised if you see the music industry try to do something on the same. Because I remember about 10 years ago or so, I think it was Sony started putting software on a handful of releases that when you would take that home and put it in your computer, it would upload a whole bunch of software that really restricted how you could upstream that music. And it was to stop people from putting it on the LimeWires and Napsters and things like that.
It would add beeps and stuff into it, wouldn't it? Or
I
breaks
forget
or
exactly how it worked, but it really, really inhibited what you could do digitally with that CD. And the courts basically said, can't do that. That's not legal.
But it's okay for them to steal it.
Right. So
you would listen to a song and it would get right to the first 3 words of the hook, and then there would be a 5-second beep.
Was that what it was?
Right. I mean, that's the ones that I remember listening to.
Right.
And then it would pick up again where it made no sense. So you got a little bit of a taste.
Sure.
But not so much as, well, I want to buy that because it's so good.
So, the piracy thing really boils down to the fact that there's no regulation of the internet, and I don't think there ever will be, because it's a worldwide thing, and who polices it, and how, if I upload a song here in St. Louis and somebody in Denmark downloads it, like, where did the crime take place? Did it take place here because I was the owner of the disc, or did it take place there because he's the one who downloaded it? And then it's this whole mess, and I don't think anyone ever wants to get into a restrictive form.
And it's not going to get any better.
No, it won't. I don't know what the answer is, because to be honest, if any of us had the answers, we wouldn't be sitting in this room tonight.
I think you said tonight the answer is the way they make the money is because you cannot buy a performance.
Right.
And you cannot Or you can't download a performance, nor can you download a T-shirt.
And that's the truth. I think one of the greatest things that the iPod introduced was mobile music, but I think it really destroyed the album. And it really turned, I think, the music industry as a whole back into the way it was in the 50s and 60s, where it's, back then it was 45s.
Right.
Now it's just downloads.
Right.
Because kids aren't going online.
Does that bother you? Because that
it
aspect
doesn't really
of it bother me. But as far as the albums, it's just a new way of delivery. And I've accepted that.
It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me that as long as they're doing it legally, I would much rather have a kid take his $10 and go on iTunes and buy 10 songs of 10 artists that he really enjoys. Because if he listens to it enough, maybe then he will want to go and say, well, maybe I want to hear this song. Maybe I want to hear this song.
Right.
Whereas, forcing a kid in the past to save up $20 and go buy a CD when he really only knows one song, maybe he's not going to like the rest.
And that happens a lot. There's a lot of records out there that have 2-3 good songs on it,
Absolutely.
and then the rest of them are just like, eh?
So, but the great part about that was when you found that one good one, when you found your first good album front to back, how great of an experience that was.
For sure.
Oh, it's incredible.
Going through the liner notes and just following the story. And
we're the last generation that cares about liner notes. We really are.
No, but it meant nothing, and it meant everything all at the same time.
I agree. The artwork and everything with it. Like I agree, and I still love that. But kids today don't. Like they don't even. Their music comes in something like this, and it's just sounds. That's all it is. They don't. I bet you.
I try to fathom that sometimes by like just transferring files from hard drives, and it's like that's a song. I mean, how does that work?
Yeah.
Because it used to be so physical as far as like it had to be on tape. It was some kind of analog. I still just can't even grasp that.
The other thing that we haven't touched on that really helped drive record sales, like it or not, was MTV and TRL. Mm-hmm. And the two rock bands that I think benefited the most from MTV as far as making them household names were Guns N' Roses and Limp Bizkit.
Yeah.
Guns N' Roses really owes a huge part of its success.
Or Dire Straits, Money for
Right. But dude, think of all the stuff that MTV did around Guns N' Roses in that first album. They did live concerts. They not just world premiere like in the U.S., but global premiered videos on all their networks in Russia at the same time.
Right.
Like that band was fostered through MTV and became what they are. They were always on the VMAs. That they were one of the first bands that had the truly anthemic, like, oh my God, did you see this video?
Right.
And then you look at Limp Bizkit, $3 Bill Y'all sat in obscurity for years before Faith hit. And then MTV picked up on that. And, they had a front man that, like him or not, was very charismatic.
Oh, yeah.
And
Freddie D.
Yep. And he was always on MTV, and he embraced it. And that Significant Other record, all over MTV.
We toured with them. I've met him so many times, and he still doesn't remember me.
Yeah.
It's like so bad.
But,
you love to hate him. He's a really nice guy, and when I did get a chance to talk to him, he was great, but it was like, what?
You want to know Fred Durst's celebrity net worth?
Sure.
Yeah.
$15 million.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I would love to know what it was 10 years ago. Think about it. I mean,
You still got 15.
Yeah, still has 15.
We have a question from the chat room. Joe's trying to get our attention here. Wanted to find out what we thought of Spotify, and wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
I think Spotify's cool. I think Spotify is a interesting way to send music to people to expose them. I have a couple of friends who every day will send each other at least a song, if not an album, to check out while they're at work. I don't deal with it that much. I have a Spotify account. I maybe open it once or twice a month. I really should spend more time with it.
I should too, and the only thing I have to say for it is like even through like our digital distribution through the bands that I manage and the things that we do on the independent level, Spotify is recognized as, you're getting paid royalties from that. I mean, it is paid out through the digital service, so I don't have any problem with it whatsoever. It's just another way of sharing music, but you're actually getting streaming royalties from it as well, which is awesome for the artists that might not get the radio play.
For sure.
There's some revenue there that can be generated.
Anyway, and this is the double-edged sword of the piracy and the online aspect of music is any way that you can find as an artist to get your music out to the masses is good, because exposure is good. It's just, we go back to trying to be a career musician and make a livelihood off it. And,
I tried that. It didn't work out. So
it's because the avenues are drying up fast. Right. And that stat, it tells you all you need to know. $8 billion a year lost. And when you look at that compared to, like you said, rice, tobacco, cotton, and fruit, and corn all going away. Like,
if you think about
think about that.
Tobacco.
Think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Think
crazy.
about if all those crops just stopped.
That's what I was saying. What did I say? Something about a corn dog? You can't have a corn dog no more.
Corn dog and a Viceroy. You can't have no
more Diet Coke because there's no corn syrup.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really
people in China would die. There's no rice.
Yeah. I mean, it's the truth. Like, you think about that, and that really kind of puts things into perspective on what we're talking about. And it's not all bad, and I don't want to paint a doom and gloom perspective because obviously, now
it's a big dent.
It's a big dent from the commercial and the business side.
Right.
It is killing the music business. It is not necessarily killing the music industry. The music industry is alive and well, probably more so than it ever has been because of all these different avenues to expose music. But the music business is where it's getting kicked in the shorts.
Well, when you say music business, are you kind of leaning towards the monetary value of music? I mean, because that's what's really getting hit, I think.
Correct.
I mean, music is still being created. People are always going to do things, artists, whether they're getting paid or not.
Yep.
It's the monetary significance in the economy of all these people and what they're doing as a career that they can't get paid for.
Well, sure. I mean, it's obviously it's the monetary fiscal bottom line of the music business is what's hurting. And, obviously the economy is not the greatest to begin with, but then you look at things like that with
it's Obama's fault.
Of course, always.
Well, no, and here's the rub because Ryan and Adam said it last week. If you even try to start to do this, if this is what you want to do and you have a dollar sign in the back of your head, You've already lost.
Yeah, you're done.
Because you can't sell that if it doesn't come from a real place.
Yeah, the days of, being Bon Jovi and having your own jet with your name on the side of it, I'm not going to say it's gone forever, but the likelihood of that is not what it once was.
So you don't have a jet that says Hoss on the side?
God, I wish.
Even a fighter plane, with the Maverick and Goose.
I'd settle for a remote control plane.
That was some of the most fun I had on tour when I was out tour managing for Cavo when they were out with Daughtry, and we went to the mall in Mall of America in Minneapolis or whatever, and we bought those little helicopters. Mm-hmm. The little bitty guys, and we would fly them around in the stadiums before they'd open, like the arenas. That was so damn fun. And we'd have Daughtry'd be out there. We'd have like 5 of them going.
When are you going to do that again?
Never.
Yeah. But it was still the experience.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, it was expensive as hell because they all broke within like the first 3 days.
Of course.
And we're in another town, so it's not like you can take them back. So we knew it was a waste of money, but it was a lot of fun.
It's the little things you do on the road to stay sane.
Fly helicopters and everything else. All right, let's take a quick break. I want to get to a couple more songs. We have Odom and One Less Reason from Memphis, Tennessee coming up in the next break. We'll go ahead and lead off the break with Odom. This is Breathe. They'll be with Brooke Royal at their CD release party April 13th at Pops, along with Shaman's Harvest and Fivefold, and should be a good show. So this is Odom with Breathe.
Sitting behind closed doors, it weighs heavy in my hands. Don't want to fight anymore. Why can't you just understand? Will you just let me breathe? Give me the space I need, so I can be the man I know I am. Will you just let me breathe? Give me the space I need, so I can be the man I know I am. I don't want to talk anymore.
let me breathe.
Behind the faces you show. Yeah. Of all those words you could have chose, you just sit there silent. Of all those things I should have known, you just smiled and held your breath. You said these words will never save you. You said these lies can never change you. I know it means nothing to you, God, it means everything to me. 'Cause I'm out here, still broken, selling my soul so you will never end up alone. I'm focused enough to notice you had versions of the truth. One moment, it's over, hold back my fear 'cause I'm about to let go. Work so hard, never let them know about the four-letter words behind the faces you show. You were lost, but you were home. You were drenched in violence. You were changed and all alone. They saved your life, but kept you here. You said these words will never save you. You said these lies can never change you. I know it means nothing to you, God, it means everything to me. 'Cause I'm out here, still broken, selling my soul so you will never end up alone. I'm focused enough to notice you had versions of the truth. One moment, it's over, hold back my fear 'cause I'm about to let go. Work so hard, never let them know about the four-letter words behind the faces you show. I pulled you closer to me. I held you down for so long. I felt where you couldn't breathe. I was there when you were
Explosion on TalkSTL.com.
Midwest Radio Promotions from Q Prime. Chris Frank, otherwise known as Hoss, joins us this week. Scotty, your host. My name's Tom.
You're just Tom.
I'm just Tom.
This is actually pretty cool. I told you, I guess, what was it, Monday, that I'm kind of getting the bug for this. And
are you swimming?
Yeah, a little bit. In the airwaves is what you swimming in the air. You know what I mean? And well, because that's what you used to work at the Point, and that's kind of where you started as an intern, and then going into radio. And during the break, Tom had talked about kind of the transition from that to where you are now, and does that exist for kids these days to have that opportunity? You worded it better, so I'll go ahead and let you word it, but that was...
Well, when you're in that big studio with all the monitors and the lights and it's radio and you see the VU meters going back and forth, and you have every year the communications class from Fort Zumwalt come through, and there's a bunch of these 17-year-old kids looking at you and playing, Fred Durst and all that. I want to do what you do. How do I do that? And I would call, I said...
I learned it from watching you.
You'd call 3 people in the office. It didn't matter who it was. Drew down the hall, who does production, Tommy the boss, or whoever it was. Is like, what do you tell a 17-year-old kid who wants to be a DJ?
Now, you weren't an intern for Tom and Jeff.
Oh, yeah. I started off as their intern.
Really?
Well, I started off as a promotion intern because I got my internship so late in the summer that there was nothing left on air.
So you were the guy that went around and hung up the little plastic flyers at all the shows
that was me.
And all that stuff?
6 a.m. at Point Fest every year. And
the role of...
10 minutes after the gates opened, all my work was on the floor. But what's funny is 3 weeks before I was supposed to go back to college, I heard that they were looking for a new intern, and I forget what show it was, but I saw Trish, and I went up to her and I said, I hear you're looking for an intern. She's like, yeah. Do you want it? And I was like, yeah, I want to be on the air. And that was it. And I had to scramble and find a college back here that would take me. And I started off.
would take me.
And that's where the name came from. That's where Haas came from, was me being the idiot running around in the streets trying not to get arrested. But, I went from there, I got the name from them, and then I'd come in at nights and sit in with Donnie, and I'd sit in with Costello, and Matt taught me how to run a board.
And that just proves the point that you have to have passion in your heart to do whatever you want to do, whether it's radio, whether it's music, whatever it is. It has to come from here.
You have to have work ethic. The summer that
because you weren't getting paid for that as an intern. You were just there because you wanted to be there.
And I was doing stuff. There was probably about 6 months back when we were Sinclair that I was doing things that our program director knew I was doing that I could have gotten them in trouble with the FCC for because they weren't paying me. I was running the board by myself on Sunday nights because Matt Costello had taken the local show live on location before the Oz. And instead of hiring a board op, Matt was like, this is how I'm going to get you a job. And I did it for free for 6 weeks before they finally said, can you pass the drug test? You're done. And I did it.
They actually drug tested you?
Yeah.
Who did? Emmis or Sinclair?
No, Sinclair.
Wow. Yeah. We were just talking about it earlier today on the show. There is no drug test because if they did, they lose the entire business.
Let's put it this way. I had to take the test. And I know I passed it because I hadn't at that time in my life smoked anything yet. But whether or not they actually looked at the results or if it was just our PD trying to spook me, who knows?
Hey,
but, but I had to take the test. But I think the not downgrade is the wrong word, but the downsizing of the industry obviously has happened on all sides. And I think that in this standpoint, it hits radio much harder than it does my side, because we're always going to have interns in an office in New York or LA or whatever that can learn the business aspect. But as far as being a DJ, I learned, as a promotion intern, we had to do 3 events and 10 hours a week in the office. And I think I was doing 20 hours a week in as many events as they would give me. And then doing on-air stuff, I was in 3 days a week with you guys, and then I would leave and go straight to college. And then I would come back 2 nights a week with Donnie and 3 nights a week with Matt. So I bet you I was in the Point studio as a college kid. I bet you 40 hours a week unpaid.
Our hoss done good. Our hoss done good.
All grown up.
No, but it was all worth it, wasn't it?
Absolutely, it
For
was.
the experience alone, it was all worth it, wasn't it?
I mean, look, it's most colleges, not all, but most colleges have college radio stations. Some are better than others, but there's nothing like on the site hands-on training. And I don't mean, I'm not going to diss on any vocational school or whatever, but there was no amount of value monetarily that I could put on being able to be in the Point studio from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. and learning how to cut reel-to-reel tape to edit phone calls to air back, to pulling music, to learning how to run the board back in the days when all of our songs were on CD, all the imaging was on Maestro, and having to mix all that yourself and to learn how to run a tight board. Nowadays, most radio stations don't have live jocks at that time slot.
It's all programmed.
Let alone it's all automated. So where does that next generation learn? And that, I think that's the biggest difference, is if you want to do the radio side, you're going to have to do something like a broadcast center or find something
Podcast center. That's our new development.
There you go.
Podcast center.
Or even, look, I blindly stumbled into a fantastic college radio program when I transferred home when I went to Lindenwood. And they have a great radio program.
Start rattling off radio people in St. Louis that went to Lindenwood.
Myself, Marty Link, Brendan
Coach
Shanahan, Jude Corbett, who's not here anymore.
But still great talent.
Yeah.
Eric Schmidt.
Tons. And I just blindly was like, you guys are still accepting applications. Will you let me in? And they let me in.
That's cool.
And,
Coach, the blind sports guy.
I've heard of him.
Here, yeah. He went to Lindenwood and had a broadcasting degree and never did anything. I mean, really until now.
And I don't have a degree and still have never done anything with it.
And
really?
You know what's funny?
You don't have a degree?
No.
In broadcasting? You didn't take a broadcast center?
I went to Broadcast Center for 6 months, and I got a gig in Carbondale, and I dropped school to go work.
My last year of college, I ended up having to go a fifth year because when I transferred, just enough credits didn't transfer over. But my last year of college, I was taking 15 hours of class. I was working at a record store, and I was doing all this stuff at the Point. And I remember going into a meeting with our PD after a morning show one day, and him looking across the desk at me because he was mad that the show would be over at 10, and by 10:20 I was out the door because I had class back in St. Charles at 11. And he looked at me and he goes, I didn't go to college. Look at me. I'm programming a radio station in St. Louis. Why do you need to go to college?
Well, I didn't go to college. And
it's a valid point. I didn't need to. But I think, what I said to him, as soon as I said it, I was like, I can't believe I just said that to the guy who could give me a job. As I looked at him and I said, well, Alan, you're not paying me to be here. And I'm paying thousands of dollars to go take classes. If you want to pay my tuition or if you want to give me a paycheck, then I'll gladly stay longer or do more than what you ask. But, in my mind, I was like, dude, I'm here 40 hours a week as it is.
Right.
Unpaid. Running a board for you illegally. And you're asking me to bleed more. But you have to do that. And
but it's those times that you bleed when you do that and you come to that crossroads of where you want to go.
Yep.
That's what you remember. You
Absolutely.
remember that time.
Sure. And I remember getting to the point and I loved my time at Emmis. I got many opportunities in the year and a half I worked for Emmis that I didn't get at Sinclair. I was getting weekly bar gigs and all this cool stuff. But I also saw that when we were Sinclair, it was very commonplace to have an internship and then become a part-timer and then become a full-timer. Yeah, Donnie did it. Tony did it. A lot of the guys who I knew
walked up the ladder. And,
from the time we were Sinclair, I went from being a promotion intern to on-air intern to part-time on-air, starting in overnights and then doing, up to the fact that I was, the guy on the weekends and the first guy off the bench if someone got sick in the full-time slot. But when we got bought by Emmis, I watched two positions open up and get filled by outside talent. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially in a market the size of St. Louis. You should get the best talent available. But that's kind of the point where I had to step back and go, okay, is radio where my passion is? Do I want to move to Grand Forks to get my first full-time radio job to work my way back to St. Louis? And at that time, the afternoon drive girl in St. Louis at the Point was married to a record rep. And I did so many papers on him in college that he would just say, just send me a copy of what I said. So if your professor calls me, I know what I said. And that's not a lie. And right about that time.
Great guy, too.
Yeah.
Martin's a great guy.
Yeah.
He is.
And
He
right about that
is.
time is when the job in Chicago opened up to work for him and the Chicago rep and the Kansas City rep for Interscope. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do.
Well, you made the
it
right
seemed
decision.
more secure. Yeah. So I spent 2 years in Chicago and then 2 years in LA and then
Well,
back
you guys
here.
are just talking about the hands-on. I never went to college. I mean,
Yeah.
all I did was went and recorded a record. I was in
It's
a
not
band, and that's what I
necessary.
learned. That's where I learned the management side of things and the recording side of things.
If you want to do, if you want to do this, it's all about the experience.
Absolutely.
It's all about doing it. Same thing with rock and roll. It's all about doing it. Same thing with
you just got to do it.
You just got to do it.
I have always said that the music industry, be it the label side or the radio side or whichever side you deal with, is very much like the mob. It's very hard to get in, but once you're in, you're pretty much in. And it's the only industry that I can think of where you could get fired on a Friday and have a better job on Monday.
When does that happen?
Not always. I just heard that I can, if I have a passion for music, that I can enroll in Vatterott and take Nelly's class.
Oh yeah, he does have a.
I would really like to know more about that.
I want to look into that. We
intrigues
should
me.
talk. I would actually like to have him come in and talk about it. I might try to reach out to him and see what his program is.
Yeah.
And have him come in because I know I think it's a little bit of everything. It's the whole business aspect of it, the engineering aspect of it, the songwriting aspect of it.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
And Broadcast Center, if for those people who have the heart,
sure,
and who really want to do it, it's not a bad option considering if this is really what you want to do. Do you want to move to North Dakota?
Right.
Do you really want to talk about rock and roll records on the air or country records?
Yep.
This is Steamboat and Peanut in Fargo, North
or whatever
Dakota.
it is. I don't think it's an option anymore, really. But if that's really what you want to do, it's kind of like, wearing that Proby patch.
Sure.
Here's a bunch of guys who used to radio who's going to teach you how to do radio, and we'll put you in contact with a few people. And if you can do it, if you can carry the load, if you want to make $13 an hour in South Dakota, here's a job for you. Go ahead and press a button.
Right.
And that's where you learn your chops.
Yep. And there's so many different avenues now, and you have to get in where you can fit in. And I think part of the reason why for me I decided I wanted to do what I did as opposed to stay on the radio side was
money.
Well, no, because trust me, I'm not making much more than I was when I was a part-timer.
When he was interning at the point.
I love rock music, and I knew that if I wanted to stay in radio, there was going to come a time where I'd have to decide, okay, it's time for me to put on a 10-gallon hat and start spinning Willie Nelson records. Because if that's where the job is,
you got to pretend.
Yeah, and it's between not eating and not working or taking this job, you got to do it. And my passion for radio wasn't that strong. My passion for the music industry was. I think like all kids, I got into thinking, I'm going to be the next Howard Stern. And then I got into it, and I had fun what I was doing. But I think, for me at least, the passion was working for the point. It wasn't necessarily working in radio. I was a kid from St. Louis who grew up listening to this radio station.
And it was cool when you got the jacket. It was cool.
Absolutely.
It was cool when you got the Point Fest shirt before everyone else got the Point Fest shirt. You were part of a team. You were part of part of what you loved and
absolutely
what you believed in.
And that's, and you see that with all aspects of the industry. You see the people who are in it for the right reasons, and you see the people who are in it for the wrong reasons. And most of the time, the people who are in it, be it radio or records or whatever, to hang out with rock stars and get hammered and be part of the show, most of the time those guys get left in the dust. Because
I hung on really hard.
Sure. But again, I don't think I would put you in that category. But I've seen people who all they want to do is go party on the bus. That's what they want to do. They think that's part of they think that's the job. And I love what I do. I love my job, but it is a job. It does not define who I am. And I
Make
think
a stand.
You have to. Well, but you have to. I think you have to have that balance.
I'm totally screwing with you, but no, I mean you have to because you could lose yourself very easily in this industry,
Very easily.
and treat it not like a job,
right?
And that's where you're going to succeed, as where others are going to fail because they're there for a different reason.
Sure,
you're there because there's actual passion there, doing what you're doing, and you do know that it's a job.
Yeah, I mean,
and you have to do it well, or you're not going to be around very long, especially in the climate now.
That's the truth.
With the way things are. I mean, if you're not producing things for the label, you're done.
I always looked at it, even when I was an intern, and I looked at it kind of like when you're a kid and you're playing sports. And I'll just take it back to 97 when I was in college. For every Jeff, Trish, and Tom, there was 4,000 other radio morning shows around the country that wanted to be them. For every, full-time guy who had a job who was ready to take the next step, there was that many people below them, down to the fact that me as an intern, if I didn't bust my ass as an intern and make good impressions and do my job right, there was 100 kids behind me who were praying to have an opportunity to walk into that station and wear a point shirt at an event and hand out bumper stickers just to have their foot in the door. Mm-hmm. And you have to keep pushing forward, because the day that you get complacent with where you are in this industry is the day that you get shot out.
Good point.
Moment of silence. Well taken.
No doubt. You definitely have to come back and join us, man. We're going to go ahead and wrap up, and it's been awesome having you here. I think some great insights came out, and I actually learned a little bit too, so that's good. I like learning new stuff about music business.
Let's all hug.
No, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming. I know you've been traveling around a lot and all that, so you got to come back and see us whenever you can.
For
Please.
sure, absolutely.
Just consider yourself part of the show as far as that goes with the family and whatever else. So
anytime.
You're welcome anytime you're here. Joe Pro, thanks for pressing all the wrong buttons, as Coach would say. Tom West.
Just having a beer.
Having a beer. This is Midwest Music Explosion on Talk STL. We'll see you next Wednesday, and keep an eye on Facebook. We'll let you know what's coming up next week. Not really sure yet, but we'll have some guests in, have some unique things coming in the future, and a lot of opportunities for some local bands as far as compilation stuff and different offers that we're going to be able to provide them. So we'll end it with Greek Fire. If this is the end, we'll see you next Wednesday. Adios. I have to say hi to my kids. They're watching. Trinity, Van, Luis. Love you guys.
This is the